What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Lock and Cash podcast. It is Friday, November 14th, as we get ready to wrap up week 11 in the NFL, the market wrap up show. And I have a best bet coming for you guys, looking to make up for the Tampa Bay loss last week. The one that I have this week is my favorite bet of the week. I love it. So we'll talk about that shortly. Thursday Night Football last night, not much to say. You kind of expected the Patriots to win. Does go to show you the importance of the number, getting the best of the line and understanding when you're looking at an inflated line. Because one of the things I mentioned was that the 13 was, or 13 and a half even at some point, was wildly inflated, and the Patriots end up winning by 13. So this is the importance of watching the market, understanding what key numbers are and all that stuff. So they end up winning by 13. The Jets, you either pushed, covered, or lost, depending on when you got that line. So that is how important it is to shop around and make sure that your timing is good and you kind of know what to expect in the market. So another loss for the Jets. Another Patriots now the first team to 9 wins. Very impressed. Very like just they're playing super well. I don't see a loss coming until probably after their bye week. So looking at a team that's probably going to be 11-2 going into their bye. Crazy stuff from Vrabel and Drake May. All right, over to Sunday. Let's start with the international game in Madrid, Spain. The Commanders and Dolphins, Miami minus 2.5. Pretty much stuck here at 2.5, juiced a 15 to 115. Do I think this will hit 3? Maybe. I would expect buyback immediately. It did hit 3 for a split second, came right back down. I think the only way that you play this game is looking at Washington with the full 3 as a buy low, but the problem I have with it is the matchup to me is not good. The Dolphins quietly, as I've the Friday show, when we do the show on Friday, I'll always have a little bit more context, a little bit more info, because on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays when I do my deep dives into all the games, like in terms of matchups and everything, to see if there's anything other than just line value that I can play on. And Miami, over the last month, number one rushing defense in the NFL, they're playing well in the trenches. So that's the thing that, they okay, they upset Atlanta, they upset Buffalo, they beat up by Baltimore. But the thing is, they're playing well in the trenches. So if they show up and play well in the trenches, it's hard. It's going to be tough for Washington with a backup quarterback. I could see an argument for either side here, but my lean would be to Washington at 3. My lean would be to Miami below 3 points over the key number, right? Packers taking on the Giants. This line is sticking at 7 now. Was 7.5, came down, saw 6.5 for a split second, now back to 7. Jameis Winston in for the Giants in this game. Typically, that would mean high variance. He could throw 3 touchdowns. He could throw 3 interceptions. He's going to sling it, but at the same time, he doesn't have many weapons to work with. Obviously, most of the key guys out for the Giants. So this will be interesting to see how the Packers respond here. If you're the Green Bay Packers, I mean, I'm trusting the Packers. I included them in a teaser, so I'm trusting them to just get a win here. I have them down to -1 in a 6-point teaser. I like that. I would support that if you did that. But if they struggle, like I'm expecting a sweat-free win here. If they struggle in this game, you've got bigger issues if you're the Green Bay Packers. And I know the Giants can be a little feisty at home, but this is so lopsided. This should not be, especially after if you've lost 2 games in a row. The Packers should come out here with their hair on fire, absolutely needing a win. And that's what I'm expecting in this game. But the market is pretty much held steady at 7. No surprise there. Buccaneers at Bills. Same thing here. We saw a 6 pop up, back down to 5.5. I make this line right at 6, so no surprise there. Um, Tampa Bay seems to be getting a little bit healthier. Saw Bucky Irving practice, saw Godwin practice. We have to see if those guys end up playing. Buffalo is pretty banged up on defense. I think you get a high scoring game here, even though this line has gone. I talked about early in the week how I would lean over with 2 bounce back spots for the offenses, but the market's gone against me here. This line's come down, and you're starting to see some 47s flat. I like that. I still think both teams can put up 24 points. So over 47, I would support that play with a banged up defense and with a great, two very strong offenses when they're firing on all cylinders. So lean over in this game. Not really much on the side. I could see anything happening in this one. It's tough. But I have no action on that game as of now. Steelers taking on the Bengals. Pitt still at 5.5. This is one of the games we've seen no movement at all. Just 5.5 the entire week. I think after digging into this, I could see Cincy being a live dog. They're coming out of the bye. Do you have any reason to believe they fixed their defensive problems? No. But if they do, they'll be live in this game because they can score. But I'm leaning towards the assumption that they are not fixing that defense. It is just brutal. So if I'm looking at it from that perspective and Pitt coming off of that blowout loss on Sunday Night Football, I think you're getting the Steelers a little cheap here. So I would lean slightly that way, but this is another game I have no action on. Texans taking on the Tennessee Titans. It's now Houston -6, -5.5 in some spots. Came all the way down from the 7.5. No CJ Stroud in this game, so you're getting a second game out of Davis Mills. Tennessee coming out of the bye. There was a trend I posted on social media, or you may have seen it over here too on YouTube Shorts, about how teams that after they play 3 straight home games, then they go on the road, they're just 30% ATS if they're laying above a field goal. That's the position that Houston's in. And the record is 15-35 against the spread. And out of the 35 losses, 21 outright losses. This to me smells like an upset for the Titans. I just don't know. I mean, you have the interim coach now. You had time to prepare during the bye. It makes all the sense in the world that they would come out and play a very strong competitive game and maybe win this game. But it's hard to trust a team that's covered like 3 times in the last 2 years. They're on an insane ATS losing streak. So really tough, tough to call. The one thing I'll say is Davis Mills. Okay, the first game you get with the backup is usually the best spot you're going to get. I talked about this before. If you've been watching my podcasts week in, week out, we saw it with Wentz. We saw it with Mariota. We saw it with Browning. Like it's always the first game that the backup gets put in. They're fresh. Maybe the other team doesn't know what to expect. They're motivated. And then after that, it starts to decline. So game 2 of Davis Mills, he played pretty good against Jacksonville. I thought he played a very solid game. Aside from the interception, he made a lot of nice throws. They scored a bunch of points. After the first game, though, I would expect to him to start declining and showing why he's a backup quarterback. So I don't love this spot for him laying points on the road. The Houston defense is good, but look at the home road splits. They're not as strong away from home. So strong lean for me to Tennessee here. I did not play it. I'm not going to play it at 6 because I could have gotten 7 earlier in the week. But strong lean to the Titans. I think they make this a game. Bears at Minnesota Vikings. 3 basically across the board. Some 2.5 starting to pop back up as the Bears getting buyback at 3. This has been bouncing around the key number. We've seen 3.5. We've seen 2.5. We've seen 3. This is your best bet of the week. I'm on the Vikings -3 at -105. I think this is a really good spot for it to start to fall apart for the Bears. Okay, the Bears are now 6-3. They've won 6 out of their last 7 games. They lead the league in turnover differential at +14. 20 takeaways, only 6 turnovers. They're winning games by the skin of their teeth. 10-point comeback last week in the fourth quarter against the Giants. A couple of 1-point wins sprinkled in there that they should not have gotten those games against the Raiders and against the Commanders. Crazy miracle win against the Bengals. Like you could just go on and on and on and on. And this stuff in the NFL is not sustainable. Now, the key to finding when the wheels start to fall off is the opponent. It's not the team, it's the opponent. And beating the Bengals, the Giants, those are not the teams that you want to just jump on to start fading a team that you think is overvalued. This one I think is a good spot though. Divisional game against one of the better defenses that they've seen in a very long time since the Ravens game basically. This will be the best defense they've seen. They only put up 16 points in that game. The Vikings we know can get pressure. That's going to bother Williams. They're very good in the secondary, so they're going to be able to defend the pass and they're going to be able to get pressure. On the other side, the concern is McCarthy. He hasn't looked great. But I'm going to try to cut him a little bit of slack. He played week 1 and beat the Bears. He played week 2, got beat up by the Falcons. He was injured in that game. His last 2 starts did come against the Lions and the Ravens, 2 of the better defenses in the NFL, without a doubt. I think he's getting a massive break here against the Bears defense, who is 30th in yards per play, 32nd in EPA, 30 success rate. I mean, everything. They're bottom 3 in every defensive metric. Still banged up. Can't defend anything, can't stop anything. The Vikings have plenty of weapons at wide receiver that they can use. I think if there's ever a game where we see McCarthy sling a little bit, the running game gets going, Jefferson has a big game, this is the game against this team. Maybe you get some turnover luck at home. Second straight home game for the Vikings. They don't have to travel. I really like this spot as a buy low, sell high kind of thing. So Vikings -3, that's my best bet of the week. In week 11, the Panthers taking on the Falcons. Nothing has changed in this one. Atlanta -3.5, 42.5 the total. Pretty much straight across the board here, 3.5 the entire week. I have this line higher. I'm surprised it has not bumped up yet. I've got this 4.5 in my ratings. I could, maybe even 5. I could bump it up to 5. The Panthers are coming off of a loss at home, and the Falcons are not in an ideal spot having to travel back after playing in overtime from that Berlin game. But I still think the Falcons are the far better team. And in their first matchup that the Falcons lost 30-0 in Carolina, the box score in that game tells you everything you need to know. They played basically an even game. Atlanta, I think, outgained them as well. So it was kind of misleading 30-0. They just couldn't stop turning the ball over. I think they'll clean things up at home, and I think they'll win this game by a touchdown or more. Just a little surprised that the market has not moved here yet off of the 3.5. Chargers taking on the Jaguars in Jacksonville. LA -3 right now, 43.5 the total. Jacksonville fits the bill as another team like the Bears. They're second in turnover differential, so I do want to look for spots to fade them. The problem here the one thing that would concern me here is if you're looking to back the Chargers like I am, is the offensive line. All right, the offensive line has been brutal, and Herbert's been able to play around that by getting the ball out quickly. It's just a little. The Jaguars can get pressure. They've got guys on the edge that can rush. The line has been terrible, the offensive line for the Chargers. So my one concern here is the game-breaking aspect of this. If Herbert gets sacked a bunch of times, a strip sack fumble, has to throw under a lot of pressure, and then maybe makes a mistake or two. That's my concern here. So if we see that, I could see, and the spot here, I will definitely admit, even though I like the Chargers in this game, the spot does lean a little bit to Jacksonville, right? Because they're coming off of the fluky blown loss at home, while the Chargers have won some games in a row, and now you know what I mean. So I could see why people would want to buy the full field goal with the home dog. I still like LA, but that's kind of where I'm at with it. Market has also bumped. I mean, the market was 2.5. It's bumped up to LA -3, which is exactly where I have it. So I like the Chargers -2.5 in this game. Seattle on the road at LA, 3, still 3 in this one. Again, not a lot of movement here either. Rams -3, 48.5 is the total. One thing that I didn't mention on the early show this week was that the history between McVay and Darnold. Now, I know the teams are different, but they played the Vikings twice last year, and they smacked them up both times, man. The Rams sacked them a bunch of times in both games, thoroughly beat them. It wasn't even close in both games, blew them out in the playoff game. So it is a different team. Seattle is certainly better than that. I think they're better than that Minnesota, although that Minnesota team won 14 games last year. I think I'll say the offensive line is better than that team. They were banged up on the offensive line towards the end of the season last year. But it does make you think, do they kind of have his number? Does McVay and company kind of have him figured out and know what to do? When it comes now, the Seahawks are running things a little bit differently. We talked about the heavy sets, how they're passing out of the heavy sets, but the Rams are doing the same thing too. So Seattle's going to have to deal with that as well on the defensive side of the ball. So to me, this is a game where if I had a clear angle, if I had a clear zigzag buy low sell high opportunity, I may have jumped on it. But both teams come in streaking, red hot, scoring a ton of points. So how do you guess, I guess you could look back to your priors. Prior to the season, the Rams would have been the much better team. So maybe you lean on that. But to me, it's just a clear stay away game. Two teams that are just smoking hot right now. And why do I want to just guess which one is going to continue to be hot? I think just stay away from me. My lean, though, Rams -3 is my lean. 49ers take at Arizona, taking on the Cardinals, -3 now. 2.5s are all gone. We now have -3 across the board. 48.5 the total. Brock Purdy back for this game. Jacoby Brissett still in for the Arizona Cardinals. The big question here is both teams are coming off of losses, by the way. But the big question in this one is Purdy 100%. If he's 100%, guys, this line should be north of 3. If he's not 100%, it shouldn't be. Now, I don't think he's 100. I think he's coming back, but I'm not sure he's 100%. I think this is a combination of a few things. And I know you start to speculate, but whatever. I think this is a combination of I'm good enough to go, and also I need to get back in there before I lose my job. And I would not have said that earlier in the season, but Mac Jones to me has done enough. There's no more of what I said, the backup quarterback, one game and then it dips. He's getting better as it goes on. So I think Purdy's coming back here for I don't think he's 100%, but I also think it's a little bit there. There's something there. We got to get the guy back in. We paid him all this money. If he can go, if he's good enough to go, let's go. Plus, it's a divisional game on the road. You want to get the win, of course, and I do think Purdy is better than Jones overall. I have him rated about a point and a half better. So I do think you're getting some value if Purdy's 100%, but I just don't think he's 100% based on what I've seen and read. All right, the Ravens taking on the Cleveland Browns. We've got 7.5s here, basically across the board. In Cleveland, this game, 39 is your total. Dylan Gabriel, another start for him. Why? I don't know. This is your classic Cleveland spot. The line did come down. It was 8.5. Now we've seen 8. Now we're seeing 7.5. Makes sense. Not disagreeing with the line movement. But as I talked about earlier in the week, those Cleveland Brown teams of the last 2 or so seasons that we've seen pull off these upsets at home. We saw it this year. We saw it last year. Last year to beat the Ravens. The year before that to beat the 49ers. This year to beat the Packers at home. All as big dogs, just like this. The problem is those teams all had veteran QBs. Winston, Flacco. Now you're coming in with Gabriel, who is significantly worse than both of those guys. I just don't see it happening. Even if the defense plays a stellar lockdown game, this is the number one defense versus basically the number one offense. When fully healthy, the Ravens are the best offense in the league with the most weapons, the most concepts, everything like that. So the Ravens have their full arsenal available to them. The Browns, best defense at home. I kind of think the Ravens went out here. I wouldn't even be surprised if they cover, but the market movement makes sense to me. Buying on the home dog, that's just been a super reliable home dog. They're 3-0 ATS this year at home. So and I believe they won. Yeah, all their wins have come at home, so makes sense with the Browns. But personally, I wouldn't play it. Chiefs at Broncos -3s went to -3.5 early in the week. Now we're seeing 4s pop up. All KC money so far. If you like Denver, I think this is the best of the number. I don't see it going above 4. So if you want to grab Denver, grab a 4. 44.5 the total. This spot to me is pretty simple. The Broncos on a long winning streak, but it's been not impressive aside from the Cowboys game. When you're playing the worst defense in the league, that kind of helps. And the Chiefs coming out of their bye, it's do or die. They're 5-4. If they lose this game, you can probably put them out of the playoff. Like, it's going to be very unlikely they make the playoffs if they lose this game. They've got Indianapolis next, much tougher game. They got to win this game. I do think they win it. I think they come out and they roll. I think the defense will do enough. The Broncos just can't score points, man. It's really rough. Bo Nix can't make these accurate throws with guys open downfield. I think this game is going to be won though by the Kansas City offense. I think they're going to put up enough points. You've got injuries on the Denver defense. Yes, they can get pressure, but when Holmes, although this year he struggled a little bit, he's generally pretty good under pressure. I think they'll be fine. Fully healthy, come in with a winning game plan. I like the Chiefs in this one. Lions at Eagles. Here we're still sitting at 2.5. The early 1 and 1.5s are gone. We momentarily saw 3, which was shocking to me that this line got to 3, but it was immediately taken away. So Philly -2.5. The side in this game that I lean to favor is Detroit, but I'm not going to play 2.5. I would want the 3. I don't think we're getting the 3 though widely available across the board. So instead, I like Detroit in teasers in this game up to 8.5, but you got to find another leg to combine it with. I think the big thing here is the trenches. If the Detroit offensive line can contain the Eagles pass rush, they win this game. I think I could say that pretty confidently. If the Eagles get home and Goff turns into a turtle again and just gets these sacks, can't throw, doesn't have time, it's over. I think Philly wins the game. So I think that's really the only matchup you need to watch out for is the trenches when Detroit has the ball. That's going to decide the game. Monday Night Football, Dallas still -3.5 at the Las Vegas Raiders. Not much for me to say about this one. I don't have a lean either way in this game. Well, I would say I would slightly lean towards Vegas, but you have maybe an emotionally motivated Cowboys team with the passing of one of their teammates. Tough game to call. Both teams need a win pretty badly. So it should be an interesting Monday Night Football game. If anything, I would probably slightly lean to the over 49.5, but I don't have much in terms of my personal opinion on this one and also in terms of market movement. It's been pretty static throughout the week. All right, guys, that is week 11 in the NFL. A grand reminder, best bet, Vikings -3 against the Bears. Also, last night for Thursday Night Football, I sent out one prop. We had Breece Hall's under on his receiving yards. That was a win. I texted out to all free subs. If you want to get on my free pick text list, there's a link down in the description, lockandcash.com/links. And on that page, there's a little box where you can put in your phone number. You put in your number, you hit the button, it puts you on the list. Then the next time I send out a free play, you get it texted to your phone. So if you guys are interested in that, check it out down below. And thanks for watching. See you next.